All right, thanks again for joining us for today's information session for the New South Wales International Education Awards. My name is Esmond Isguera and I lead the programs here at Study New South Wales. Before we begin, and I hope the slides will work, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we are working from today, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this meeting. I'm joining this call from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and we recognize and celebrate the diversity and culture of the Aboriginal peoples and the ongoing culture and connection to the lands and waterways across New South Wales. For today's info session, we will be going through an overview of the New South Wales International Education Awards. We'll be going through the different award categories that are open for nominations and will be given out this year. We will also go through the eligibility and selection criteria for each of these categories. We will also be sharing key dates that we have aligned for this year's International Education Awards. And we will be providing an opportunity for you to ask your questions towards the end. But if you have, I will try to pause at different points of this session so you can ask your questions. And please also feel free to put in your questions on the chat so you won't forget them. All right, just a quick overview. A lot of you would be familiar with the awards that are presented by Study New South Wales and New South Wales Government for international students. But to highlight, the New South Wales International Education Awards is a recognition of the outstanding contributions of our international students to the wider New South Wales communities, and a celebration of the excellence of organizations who are working in the international education space. And we also deeply appreciate individuals and recognize the significant impact and contributions that they make to the sector. For this year, we have two groups of awards, and that is, those are the New South Wales International Student of the Year Awards and the New South Wales International Education Engagement Awards. You will all have heard about the New South Wales International Student Awards in its previous iterations. This is the New South Wales International Education Awards is it's the same. However, we recognize the wider contributions, not only of students, but also of the programs that are being delivered for international students and for the sector, and individuals widely who have made significant impact to the sector. Why are we nominating for these awards? One, it's obviously a recognition of the successes and contributions of individuals, programs, and organizations across the New South Wales international education community. This is also an opportunity for you to promote your programs, your institution, your organization, and the programs that you deliver across the international education space. It is a connection with the rest of the sector, with the finalists, with the nominees, and with the winners, and of course with stakeholders in the international education space. And this is also sharing our successes, celebrating the successes, celebrating and sharing the stories of our students, sharing the stories of the programs that we deliver for our students and for the wider education sector. We'll start with the New South Wales International Student of the Year Awards. So these awards are basically a recognition of the contribution made by our international students, not only to the international student community, but also to the broader New South Wales community. We have four categories in this award group, and that is for schools, for English language intensive courses for overseas students or for ELICOS students, for students in the vocational and education training sector, and the award for the higher education sector. All right. And in terms of eligibility criteria, I'll just read through this, and a lot of these, all of these information are also available on the website, on the International Education Awards website of State New South Wales. Our nominees must be an international student. They are non-permanent residents nor citizens of Australia, and they need to be enrolled in a CRICOS registered course at a New South Wales education institution. They must hold a valid student visa, and they must be currently in New South Wales. The nominations are to be completed by education institutions. So education institutions would be putting in the nominations for students, for their students, obviously, and self-nominations are not accepted for this award. We encourage and we want to make sure that education institutions who are nominating students have been in touch and have sought the agreement of the nominated student prior to making the nomination. For this round of nominations, we are only asking for one referee. Now, you will see in the application, in the nomination form, that the referee must have agreed to be contacted by Study New South Wales to provide further information about the nomination. This is for individual awards, and pairs or groups of international students are not eligible for nomination. A selection panel will be convened to go through the nominations for the awards, and the selection of the awards is based on the impact made by the individual international student, ethnic, and the broader New South Wales to the broader New South Wales communities. And this is exemplified by their participation in activities, events, and programs that contribute to the wider New South Wales community, connecting to an ethnic or language community group with the broader New South Wales community, and displaying leadership in volunteering opportunities or similar opportunities. Now, that is the International Student of the Year Awards, our first group. And I'd pause here to see if we have questions specifically for the International Student of the Year Awards. There is a question on the chat. I got the impression that there is a new category, outstanding contribution to the international education sector. We will address that later in this session. If there are no questions at this stage, I will proceed with the rest of the information about the awards, and we'll continue to accommodate questions towards as we go. My apologies, our slides are just not working just yet. There you go. So these are just a few notes on or basically tips on the International Student of the Year Awards. There is a favor, we give favor to recent achievements or contribution to a cost where the student or the nominee has participated or contributed to. Education institutions nominating a student for the International Student of the Year Award category can nominate up to 3 students within this category. And the International Student of the Year Award are not tied or related to academic achievements. We highlight that this is not an academic achievement award, and we give importance to their contribution to the wider New South Wales community. There's a question about how to define recent achievement. Can it be within 5 years or 3 years? As we do the awards on an annual basis, would prefer that these achievements are in the last 12 months. but in saying that, we will not discount the achievements that they have, or the achievements that they have received, or accomplishments that they have acquired in the last beyond the 12 months. Thank you. My apologies. I will now proceed with the next group of awards, which is the International Education Engagement Awards. Now, we have recognized international students through the International Student of the Year group. And these the International Education Engagement Awards is a recognition of the contribution of education institutions, businesses, and community organizations that support international students to connect with the community through the programs and initiatives that they deliver. We have the Business and Community Organizations Award within this category. We have a recognition for education providers, and the additional category that is introduced this year is the outstanding contribution to the international education sector, which we will go through as well in a bit. Now, the International Education Engagement Awards for education providers and business and community organizations is a recognition of programs and initiatives run by either education providers or a business or a community organization from July 2022. They must be endorsed, these nominations must be endorsed by the head of the organization running the program or the initiative that is nominated. And self-nominations for business or community organizations are accepted. Again, the difference, this is for a program or initiative and not an individual. This international education engagement recognizes programs and initiatives run by one, an education provider, or two, by a business or community organization. And for this category, self-nominations are accepted. How do we select the awardee for this category? We look at the generated benefits for the international education sector. We look at the identified need that the program or the initiative addresses. We look at how the program or initiative facilitated meaningful connections and new pathways for community participation and or employment. For instance, if the program offer work experience or mentorship. We look at the enhanced relationships and networks that are made by these initiatives. And we also look at the possibility of these programs or initiatives to be replicated or adapted by the rest of the sector. I'll probably pause here and see if there are questions specifically for the International Education Engagement Awards, specifically the education provider and business and community organization category.
I have a question. Can I?
Go for it.
Hey, my name is Cansu. Could you please provide an example? Yeah, like from community or from schools that have run through those kind of initiatives.
All right, no, definitely. And a lot of this information are also available in our International Education Awards website. Last year, the winner of the Education Provider Award is an initiative for sexual health education by University of New South Wales. And that is an initiative within the education provider that partners with different organizations across the state, including the Ministry of Health, to provide information around reproductive and sexual health, I believe, for international students, which may be a topic that is not usually discussed or raised across the international education sector, given the sensitivities or the taboo nature of the topic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
A lot of the finalists and winners from previous years are also available on our website if you would like to see what kind of programs and initiatives can be nominated for this category. There is also a question, what if a person is both an international student and education provider? Can they be eligible to apply for both awards? I cannot see the possibility of an international student being an education provider at the same time. So that is quite impossible to happen. An education provider needs to be a CRICOS registered institution, and an international student are those who are attending these institutions. Is there a need for a quantifiable outcome for the programs? Look, it would be up to you as someone who would be nominating a program within your institutions or organizations. We will be looking at the generated benefits of the program towards the international education sector. It will be helpful to have a quantifiable set of outcomes. However, there are qualitative and quantitative ways of measuring outcomes of these programs. So we will leave it to you to share us the impacts of those programs and as part of your nomination. Thank you. All right. Look, we will still go through the questions in a little while, but I will just proceed with a third award within the International Education Engagement Award group. And that is the new category that we are introducing this year. And this is important to highlight that these are not duplicates of other categories, but this is a recognition of the outstanding contribution to the international education sector by an individual. Now, we are introducing this category as part of the 10th anniversary of the International Education Awards. And this, the eligibility for this is one, it is an individual who has been contributing to the sector, the international education sector in New South Wales. And we see this nominee to be basically put forward by their organization in New South Wales. Self-nominations for this category is not accepted. Now, a lot of you would be asking, what is this award on its own? It's basically the easiest way of addressing it is think of Hall of Fame, who have basically have made a mark in terms of their contribution to the international education sector. The selection criteria, again, we have our selection panel looking at the nominees, and they will be looking at the individual who has generated benefits for the international education sector in New South Wales, who have made significant contributions to enhance international student experience for our international students, and for an enhanced student experience in the international education sector. The individual would have exhibited exceptional commitment to fostering engagement in the international education space, and individuals who may have established or partnerships within the international education sector in New South Wales and have helped in forging partnerships if they have not been made just yet. I will pause there And we'll see if we have questions regarding the third category within the International Education Engagement Awards. There being none, I will proceed with the rest of the nomination tips. Look, you would be able to access the nomination forms on our website. And we would like just to make sure that you are able to put in a nomination that will be impactful. We would be giving you these tips, and a lot of you would already be aware of these tips, and this information are also available on our website. We want to make sure that you highlight the uniqueness of your nominee or your nomination by describing the uniqueness of the program and the impact. And I think the question around how do we measure the outcomes of the program is an important one. We will leave that with you, but we want to make sure that you highlight the uniqueness and the impact of your program, be it quantitative or qualitative. We'd like to encourage a concise and well-written nomination. And please make sure that your referees are contactable and that they are aware of that you have added them as a referee for the nomination that you're putting in. We have experienced that referees are not even familiar of the student or the program that has been put forward in the past. And we reach out to these referees as part of the nomination and selection process. So that is really important. We are sharing this in case you're not familiar with Study New South Wales website. This is a QR code that will lead you to the International Education Awards webpage, and that will basically tell you how to nominate. And we have also shared a link on the nomination page on the chat. And there is also the eligibility and selection criteria for each award category. So all the links are made available in this chat, in this meeting's chat. So to give you an idea of our timeline, we have opened nominations last month, and we will be accepting nominations until the 18th of August. That's Friday, 18th of August. Is that by 5 p.m. or by 5 o'clock in the afternoon? The forms will close. So please make sure that you don't leave it to the last minute, as you may not be able to put in the nomination after 5 o'clock. I would recommend that you look at the nomination form. That will give you an idea of the work that is required to be able to put in a nomination. I can see that everyone in the meeting has access to our pointer. Thank you. And we will be announcing the finalists in October, a month ahead of the ceremony, which will be held on the 1st of November this year. I believe that's the end of it. I will just go through some of the questions. I will stop sharing my screen, but we will be sharing these slides to participants of today's session. I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll go through the questions so I can read them easily. For the student category, just confirming that the student doesn't have to necessarily meet all 3 criteria. Yes. The selection criteria, yes, they don't have to, but they need to meet the eligibility criteria. Does that answer your question, Courtney?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. There's another question for the referee. Is it best to choose someone outside the organization or someone within who knows the candidate well? Now, I think this is dependent on the nomination that you are making. If it's a nomination for an individual, it would be good to, possible references that you would have is someone who would be able to attest on their contribution to the community if the nomination is very relevant to the students' participation or contribution to a community organization or initiatives within a community. Now, if it's a referee about an initiative or a project that you have delivered, it would be good to have a referee that would have benefited from your program or your initiative, be it an international student or be it another organization who is working across the international education sector. I hope that answers your question, but if there is anything else, please do let us know. I would also just highlight, look, a lot of you may be asking how different this is from the New South Wales International Student Awards. The International Education Awards is previously known as International Student Awards, or ISA for those who have been in the international education space across the years. And this change basically reflects the outstanding work of all our international students, of all our education providers, of business and community organizations who have been working in the international education space, including key stakeholders across the New South Wales international education sector. There is another question for the student category. Our university seems to have an internal selection first, and then they will submit the nomination to Study New South Wales. Is that correct? We don't need to also fill out the nomination form before the uni assessment. Look, this is a good question because as we've mentioned, we are limiting each education institution to provide nominations of up to 3 students within their institution. Right. So I believe that is why education providers would come with an internal selection before they actually put in the 3 nominations that they would like to submit. In our experience, there are times when education providers already have their 3 nominations, but we have other parts of their institution submitting a nomination. What will happen then? If we will refer this back to your university or your education provider for them to decide which of the, say, 4 or 5 nominations that we have received from the same institution to select the top 3 that they would like to put through. I hope that answers your question, Yuning. Do we have any other questions? Look, please feel free to unmute yourself if you are comfortable and ask your questions, but we'll also go through the chat. For the outstanding contributions to the international education sector, does each education provider have the 3 people limitation? Look, the outstanding contribution to the international education sector category is not limited. We do not limit that to 3 people nomination per institution. However, we'd like to make sure that it is the caliber of a Hall of Famer, if we can put it that way, that they are nominated. All right. Do we have any other questions? Otherwise, we will share with you the usual questions that we receive from on our emails, if that would be helpful. We have one of the questions that we have received would be around, I am an international student. How can I nominate myself? Or we have experiences where an international student would just put in a nomination for themselves. Again, we'd like to highlight for International Student of the Year Awards, we will require you to have your education provider put in a nomination for yourself. If you are not familiar of who to get in touch with, your student life or student experience teams usually put in a nomination, but please don't feel that you are limited to putting in a nomination through your student life or student experience teams. In our experience, there are faculties or schools that are putting nomination for international students who end up to be among the 3 nominees that their institutions are putting forward. There is a question, so people can directly nominate other people via the nomination form. So if you are a staff of an education provider, you can. I would suggest, though, that you speak to your colleagues in the student life, student experience area, as they usually put in nominations on behalf of universities, and they speak to them if they would like to put them forward. That is also just to not to duplicate nominations that are being done by different parts of education institutions. And we understand that each university or education provider are a pretty large organization, so it is interesting that we may not be able to track everything within your organization. A question, should I be nominated by university to be in the list? To be accepted, to be eligible as a nominee, yes, you need to be. If you are an international student and you feel you meet the criteria of being the awardee for International Student of the Year, yes, you need to be nominated by your education provider, by your education institution.
Sorry, can I clarify my question again?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, because I'm like on the train, so it's not very clear if you can't hear me. So just to feel the outstanding contribution to the international education sector, because we don't have like 3 people limitation for each education provider. So if the nominee want to apply for this award, can we directly contact our nominator to just fill out the form? It's not about the international student category.
If it's not for the International Student of the Year award, no. Yep. It still needs to be nominated by the organization who that individual is part of, but so you will need to that or outstanding contribution to the International Education Sector Award still needs a nomination coming from the organization, either an education provider or a business or community organization that has contributed to international education, if that makes sense.
So it will be still some people in the education provider to like nominate people on behalf of the whole education provider, right?
Sorry, what was that? This is an individual award, not an organization award.
Yeah, it's an individual award. So for instance, like I'm an employee in some university, and can I just ask my boss to nominate myself, and I don't need to like report to other layers?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we have a hand up. You can.
Yeah, thank you. So let's say I'm from University of Wollongong. So do I reach out to my university representatives to ask them to say, can you please nominate me? Is it something like that? Or
sorry, Gautam, I cannot hear you clearly. Can you try that again?
Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, go.
Yeah,
go
sure. So yeah, I'm from University of Wollongong. So should I be reaching out to my university representatives to ask me to nominate? Or
are you an international student?
Yeah, I'm an international student. Yeah.
Yes, so you need to be nominated by your education provider, Gautam. So you need to get in touch with your university to put in a nomination for you.
Yeah, so just to clarify, do you have any specific point of contacts, or should I reach out to my university for the contacts, or do you have a specific channel where you accept only the nominations from a specific channel from the university?
No, we do not have a specific channel through the university. However, if we receive multiple nominations from your institution, for instance, we will make sure that staff within your institution will have to speak to each other if that is beyond the 3 allowable nominations from each institution.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have any other questions? Yes, we will share the meeting recording to participants as well. Look, if you don't have any questions at this stage, some of it may pop up later on. You can send an email to study.nsw@investment.nsw.gov.au or reach out to our contact us page, and we'll make sure to respond to that as soon as we can, obviously before the deadline of nominations. May we just highlight that if you put in a question very close to the end of the nomination period, it might be difficult for us to track those questions that are coming through our contact us page. So we would like to make sure that they are addressed. So please send those to us as soon as you can. Might be a good idea to go through the nomination process and the nomination form earlier than towards that really close to the end of the nomination.